Hey, welcome back. Brett Bolzenthal, eXp Realty here, once again joined by Josh Dalke of Guaranteed Rate. And today we're picking back up on where we left off with our last series, talking about what Guaranteed Rate is, that it's not a mortgage company or a mortgage broker, but actually a bank that services mortgage. They don't deal with checking accounts or savings accounts. They're strictly all a mortgage business. So, welcome back, Josh.
Yep, thanks, Brett. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to have you here. So one of the topics we want to get into today is, it's been a hot topic out there, especially in the Fox cities, and we've seen it in other areas as well. But the common issue that's coming into play now is these so-called pre-approval letters that are not really actually pre-approval letters. Some of you may have already seen this floating around on Facebook and some other parts of social media, but this is a hot topic when you get involved in a situation where you think you've got a pre-approval letter, only to find out that that really isn't actually a true pre-approval letter. So Josh, your pre-approval process, what does it entail of, and what actually makes yours more of a pre-approval letter than, say, the pre-qualification letters that might be out there?
Sure, yeah. It's a great question too, and honestly the hardest part that I think the consumer runs into is that one bank could consider it a pre-qualification, another one says it's a pre-approval, but they're really the exact same document. Mm-hmm. So, but to take one step back, give you an idea, pre-qualification typically in the most general explanation is that it's information provided to a loan officer. Typically it's going to be verbal. They may or may not pull your credit score and just give you a written document that says you're pre-qualified. Taking it to the next step, pre-approval, typically you're going to be providing documentation. They're going to be pulling your credit score, making sure everything checks out, and then from there actually submitting it to an underwriter to have them review those documents, make sure everything still checks out. So that's something you definitely want to check into, because it can be the difference between getting an accepted offer on the next home that you like or possibly not getting that accepted offer. So when it comes down to it and it's actually being submitted to the underwriter, it's something you want to ask your loan officer. On Guaranteed Rate side, is something that we take a high priority in, is getting an underwritten pre-approval. On a conventional loan, it's taking us right around 4 hours right now. On a government loan, it's taking about 12 hours, depending upon when it's submitted in the day. But the nice thing with that is, if you're looking at homes this weekend, you give me a call, fill out an online application, we can still have it fully underwritten before the weekend and make sure that you go in there with the strongest offer possible.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. I mean, a lot of times we get buyers here waiting sometimes 3-4 days when they're dealing with either a mortgage banker or mortgage broker out there, or even some of the credit unions out there that they're working with. And you guys are able to get it done pretty quickly, and they have an underwritten pre-approval letter. I mean, that is really, really powerful. I mean, that's about as close as you're going to get to actually having a loan commitment almost out of the gates, where they've done that streamlined process like that, and having you in position where you're pretty much getting a reassurance that this is a real deal, not something with a fine type print at the very bottom of that pre-approval letter that really says, well, you may be pre-approved at some point in time, only to find out halfway through the process that you've already got the earnest money on the property and everything else, that unfortunately you don't qualify for a home loan because the lender didn't do their job. So that's a really, really powerful thing. Josh, another question that, or one of the things I often hear out there from buyers, and you probably do as well, of course, being in the mortgage business, is that a lot of buyers want to shop around for the best rates out there. And obviously some of them have great credit scores. And does it really make much of a difference by hopping around from bank to bank or mortgage company to mortgage company? What do you see out there, and how would you recommend that they go about the process?
Yeah, absolutely, and that is a great question, because I am asked it all the time. Hey, what's your interest rate? What are your closing costs, and all that different stuff. But honestly, when it comes down to, one thing you want to think about is, who am I working with? If I can get a 4.5% or 4.625 or whatever it might be with this other lender or someone local or whatever it might be, how is this process going to be? Am I going to close on time? Mm-hmm. Are they going to be asking me for documentation at the very end, right before we're closing? Are they going to make it a difficult closing? Is it a whole bunch of papers that I'm trying to gather up and sign and everything else? So that's something to think about. With Guaranteed Rate, myself included, one thing that we really pride ourselves on is making it as streamlined as possible. Right in the beginning, we're going to collect the documentation. We have a secure website they can upload their documents to right away, so they don't have to worry about meeting me in person, things like that. Just save you time. But when it comes to that interest rate, what's it going to do for me? When you really look at the numbers, even 5, 7, 10 years down the road, there really isn't a huge difference when it comes to, say 4.5, 4.625. When there's a larger gap, 4.5, 5, 5.5%, over 10, 20, 30 years, there's going to be a substantial difference. So what I'm getting at is that we have some very super competitive rates. I guarantee that there's banks or credit unions out there somewhere across the country that have lower rates. Mm-hmm. But the bigger thing to think about is, what kind of process am I going to have? Am I going to close on time? Are they going to make this a huge headache? Am I going to, have the moving truck full, waiting at the new house, and we find out we can't close that day? Now I've got to, pay more money just to get the moving company to come back next week. Things like that, where in the grand scheme of things, you want to go with a company that's going to make sure you close on time, have a great process. We have super competitive rates and fees, but ultimately when it comes down to it, not worrying about, hey, is this, $5, $10 a month going to make a huge difference, or is this process itself going to be something I want to, have go streamlined, not have headaches and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, obviously, service is definitely a big deal. The communication levels and everything out, and I can tell you throughout my experience that nothing is worse than seeing that you're getting ready for that closing table only to find out that there's something that's been delayed, or you're having to sit at the closing table for 4 to 5 hours because somebody screwed up this or didn't verify things correctly. And that is definitely a big deal, is making sure that you've got somebody that's reputable, that's got that solid service track that they're used to having, and that's powerful stuff. And that's why obviously you guys get repeat referrals because of that, and that's awesome testimonial to the guaranteed rate and what you guys do there, Josh. So, well, thank you once again, Josh. It's truly an honor as always to have you here. Answering these questions. And once again, Josh Dalke's information is below here, along with website information, so you can either give him a call or you can jump on his website and get started right away. So Josh Dalke with Guaranteed Rate. Thank you so much for tuning in. We got one more series coming up with some more questions with Josh. Thank you so much again, and make it a fantastic day.